Welcome to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. And now, here's your host, Wade T. Lightheart.
What if you could double your energy naturally without caffeine or stimulants in just 3 short months? It's not only possible, you can transform every aspect of your health if you follow the 12-week blueprint we've created for you in the Awesome Health System. The Awesome Health System is a free course where you receive a daily video lesson spanning the most cutting-edge secrets for air, water, exercise, sunshine, optimizers, mindset, and education. It's something most companies would charge hundreds of dollars for, yet you get it for free when you go to bioptimizers.com. To access your course, register to download the PDF report called 3 Phases of Bioptimization, which gets you access to the report and daily access to the first lesson in the 12-week, 84-day Awesome Health course.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are. It's Wade T. Lightheart on the Awesome Health Podcast, and I am pumped today because we have Autumn Smith, who is the co-founder of Paleo Valley and Wild Pastures. She holds a master's in holistic nutrition, a certified eating psychology coach, and a certified FDN practitioner. She's going to tell us about what that is in a second. She's also, she's into basically Paleo Valley is an organic whole food supplement and paleo snack food company that prioritizes, in one of my big passions, nutrient density and food quality, the most essential components to determining a great diet. Now, here's the great thing is if you see Autumn here, if you're actually not listening and watching on YouTube, you'll actually see she's a very beautiful and attractive woman. And it wasn't always that way. She had some struggles, IBS, anxiety, all these sort of things. She was a professional dancer, and a celebrity fitness trainer with Tracy Anderson, and completed a world tour with Jennifer Lopez. I wish you could see her dance. We probably want to get her to dance here. Bottom line is her and her husband, Chaz, stumbled upon the paleo diet in 2011. She was trying to get a cure for some of the symptoms that she was experiencing. And within a month of beginning it, her health was completely transformed. So we're going to talk about a few things today, like nutrient density. What is the paleo diet? What is an FDN? All this sort of stuff. Let's get into it. Autumn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wade. I'm so honored to be here. And I always love coming on someone's podcast who is as excited about this stuff as I am. And you're clearly that person. So thank you. It's an honor.
So let's backtrack here. You've done all these things. Let's talk about, you were a professional dancer. Yeah. Tell me about that career and then what got you to, what challenges you were happening. So how did that all happen? So start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? How did you get into dancing? How did you end up dancing with Jennifer Lopez? And is she as cool as everybody is?
Okay, one quick thing before I get into my story. I actually went on tour as her fitness trainer. But I was... Okay. Tracy Anderson method is a method you're probably familiar because you live in LA now. Mm-hmm. Tracy Anderson was a dancer and she created a method based on dance to give everyone a dancer's body. So that's how I ended it. But I started dancing when I was 4. My parents made me do it because I have this much energy and I still have this much energy. And so they were channeling that, which was very smart. And luckily at some dance competitions, a principal of the Bolshoi Ballet in Russia, he was living near me. And he and I became good friends. My parents drove me 3 hours one way every weekend to study with him. And so I was mostly a ballerina as I was growing up. And I went to college, got into a dance company, went into modern, danced professionally while I was going to college, and then moved down to LA. And I danced there for a while. I was a backup dancer for a Disney artist and did a little brief stint in Vegas, went over there, did some shows. And then I came back to LA and I loved dancing, but I wanted a little more stability. I was in a modern company at the time. And then Tracy Anderson caught on my radar because one of the other girls in the modern company was working for her. And at this time, nobody really knew who she was. She was just Madonna's fitness trainer. That's what we knew. She was training Madonna, but she really wanted dancers to perform her method because it is based on dance. So I started working for her. She's the one who sent me on tour with Jennifer Lopez as her trainer. And it was during this time, I mean, since I was a teen and I was dancing, I always had digestive issues. Okay. And I was like buying this fat free and, sugar free. And so I was eating all of these low calorie foods, doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing. My stomach would be bloated like I was pregnant. I would wake up in pain. I had cystic acne. And I went to doctor after doctor and no one could help me. And so I just kind of learned to manage it. I did that with drinking and smoking and, the things that I had this anxiety too. And I did that until I met my husband and we moved in together. And I had kind of been hiding the pain I was in for a lot of years, but I couldn't hide from him when we were all of a sudden together all the time. And he said, sweetie, like, what's going on with your stomach and, your skin? And I used to have to reapply makeup a million times a day to just hide it. But he didn't accept the way I was feeling. And he said, we've got to just do something. And so we finally went to one last doctor. They told me the same thing. There's just nothing we can do. You have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. There's no cure, treatment really. And so we just got online. He got online. He saw back in 2009 that people were having good results with IBS and other digestive related conditions with the paleo diet. So I said, okay, honey, we're going to try this. And I just didn't really believe it would do anything. But we adopted his principles for 30 days and I didn't have the bloating anymore.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It wasn't crazy because it was over a decade I was suffering. My skin and my anxiety, they were things that came into play later, which is why I kept learning more. I think paleo is an awesome starting place. There's a few other tweaks I had to make, but it was absolutely revolutionary in the fact that I wasn't turning down social engagements. I didn't have to worry about what I was going to wear or how bloated I was going to be after dinner. So yeah, that's how I got here. And that's why when I went on that tour with Jennifer Lopez, I was always looking for treats or snacks or food to kind of maintain this lifestyle. And we were sometimes in 2 different countries in a day, and it wasn't possible at this time. And I needed the resources. And so that's why I quit that job after I got back to the United States. And I went back to school, and because I was really fit and I wasn't well, and I wanted to learn how to be well, and I wanted to give people the tools to be well. And so that's
you make a great point here, and I think that's something that I discovered a long time ago in my bodybuilding career, and that's what got me into fixing my digestion. And that was, you can be really fit, but not necessarily healthy. And of course, as a professional dancer, it's way tougher than people think. It's an extremely demanding position, and traveling, it looks glamorous. It's pretty hardcore, can really beat you up. I want to know, for our listeners, what are the foundational components of the paleo diet, and what were the things that you shifted because you're on the low fat kind of, low calorie, whatever diet, thinking I'm trying to be healthy, or I'm trying to be fit, or I'm trying to be lean with the digestive issues. What did you start to do right off the bat? And you can tell us, and also maybe give a couple of tips for people who might be suffering from something like that and would like to give paleo a try.
Yeah, I love that question, because when it boils down, it was just, I started shopping at farmers markets rather than going to the supermarket. So I started to eat whole foods. And, I didn't at first get rid of dairy, although I did realize I needed to later. And I have a big problem with gluten, as it turns out. So eliminating the gluten and eliminating the dairy were huge for me. I also have quite a sweet tooth. And so having to get rid of sugar and those protein bars, or whatever they are, they're not really protein. They're just kind of a lot of carbs and sugar and all these crazy freaky additives that were just wreaking havoc on my digestion. So that's what I would say is, like, move away from anything that comes in a package. I'm a food manufacturer. We make snacks, but honestly, I love our snacks and they're high quality versions, but whole food as it comes out of the ground, fruits and vegetables, high quality animal products, that was absolutely the staple of my diet, as opposed to whatever I could find that was fat-free, whatever I could find that was high protein, whatever that I could find was like some sort of green juice. That was all I did really, is just move towards whole foods. And so paleo, the idea is just, you kind of eliminate sugar and you eliminate gluten and all grains actually, and dairy and soy, and just foods that are not as nutrient dense as fruits and vegetables and high quality animal products. So we've always been told grains are like the mecca when it comes to nutrient density, but it's not actually the case, especially in refined form. And they often lead to these blood sugar fluctuations that I was experiencing that lead to things like anxiety and, energy or like fatigue and cravings. And I think things that a lot of Americans are struggling with today.
When you talk about that, I think this is a really great topic because there's so many people who are suffering from anxiety and depression in today's world. Now, part of it's because of kind of the social media generation of everybody's in comparison to the ideal framed, lifestyle of these little vignettes that makes somebody's life look extraordinarily well, but in reality, it might not be the case. The other thing is you said something very important, and that is people buying their food at grocery stores that may have a host of chemicals, preservatives, additives, dyes, all sorts of different agents that really aren't part of our food cycle.
Right.
What are some of the big things that you find that were causing problems before and that you switched? Like, so how did you do the substitute from, say, like, protein bars and low fat stuff? Like, what were you switching to? What kind of foods do you eat on a paleo diet? Because I heard what you didn't eat. People are like, what do I eat? Sounds like I don't eat anything.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. And I'm sorry for focusing on that, but yeah, I was eating a lot of soy milk, a lot of whey. Not that I think that whey is a problem for everybody, but a lot of those whey protein bars, crisp bars, and the bars that I was buying had like a million ingredients. And so what I did was just go, okay, I'm going to be working out 6 hours a day. I'm going to have to think ahead. And so I started doing like deviled eggs, and that's why we made our beef stick, because I, as a fitness trainer, needed a really high quality source of protein that could keep me going throughout the day, that was fermented. It didn't have things like encapsulated citric acid, which we can get into later if you want to. But say maybe for breakfast, I'll do like an omelet and maybe a side of an avocado. I have a daily green shake that I make because it literally turns my brain on. It makes me feel this sense of calm and well-being that nothing else does. And it's nothing like a ton of fruit. It's just greens. There's actually a study recently that if anyone the people in the study at least, had 1 to 2 servings of leafy greens a day, had a brain that looked 11 years younger. So for me, my daily green shake, it's a staple. It's just happening. And then
what do you put in it? What do you put in it?
What do I put in my green shake?
Yeah.
Okay, I put in like spinach and kale and romaine. So romaine's a great source of folate, really, really important for our brain health. Okay, so probably that's like, just like a handful of each of those. And then I'll put either like a handful of blueberries or a few strawberries. And maybe I'll cut a little bit of lemon and then some coconut milk. And I blend that up. Maybe a high quality protein, maybe our bone broth protein powder, maybe our super greens powder, and maybe sometimes just nothing, just the green shake. And it's really, really simple. Or sometimes if I'm feeling, like I need a change, just a few spears of pineapple. And it's just that simple.
Now this is all organic foods too that you're choosing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, for so many reasons. The nutrient content is higher. What it's doing to our soil can be regenerative. And of course, we're avoiding the chemicals, the pesticides, all the things that we don't want to drink in a smoothie. So yes, definitely organic produce. And then at night, I'll probably have like maybe some brisket, and then Brussels sprouts are my absolute favorite food. I can put some grass-fed butter in them because though it is not technically paleo, I've done the elimination. I know that is a food that's okay with me. If you haven't yet done that elimination, something like ghee would be great. Extra virgin coconut oil would be awesome. Kind of extra virgin olive oil. Any of those would be awesome. And then for dessert, I always have a dessert. It's usually like some sort of dark chocolate fat bomb that I'll make out of like coconut oil and a high quality protein and maybe some almond butter and a little cacao, organic raw cacao. And there it is.
Amazing. So what was the transition like, coming from kind of the chemical foods and these type of things, and, pretty driven on a lot of those things are really hit the sweet factor.
It was tricky. I'm telling you at the beginning. And that's why I meet people where I am when they work with me or where they are. And I used to eat like 3 apples a day, like these huge apples, just to get me over that hump, because I had a sweet tooth. Everything I was eating, I knew that, or I, had that strong, very, very sweet taste and a lot of sugar. And so, I just leaned heavily on fruit to get me there at first. Eventually I realized I needed to, actually was hitting the dried fruit pretty hard, but I don't recommend that because the blood sugar stuff. But I used fruit for a long time. And my husband and I actually had like cheat weekends, which wasn't ideal in the beginning, where we just kind of ate whatever we wanted to. got a little out of hand. But I'm telling you, once you do it for a little bit of time, you stop wanting those foods. You just do. I can seriously, go to a birthday party and the cake, you know, sometimes I'll have it, but most of the time it doesn't even look good to me. So it happens even for the person who used to carry around 6 caramel apple suckers every day when she was in high school, because I had such
Wow.
so
You bring up a good point there, and I want to dive into that a little bit. And when you're talking about IBS and bloating and gas and things like that, oftentimes it's a disruption in the microbiome. Originally, when we had, like if I go to my mom's garden, for example, you take a carrot out of the ground, you brush a little dirt off it, and you eat it. And of course, the dirt contained the microorganisms that are associated with that particular vegetable or plant. And today they hyper sterilize everything. They wash everything off it. They use chlorinated water, all these sort of chemicals. So what's interesting is when people I find are having sugar cravings, particularly, which is pretty common. People crave sugar. I'm one of those people. I like sweet things.
yeah.
Did you do anything else besides just switching your diet to start adjusting your microbiome? Because when you change your diet, you starve out the bad guys and start feeding the good guys. But did you do anything else in addition to that? Like, was there anything that you had to focus on in that transition? And then how long, the second question would be, how long did you start to notice results and to really get to that optimal state when you switched over? Because it's not just happens all in one day.
No, that's such a great question. Well, what happened is I found out, all signs point to candida for me. It seemed to be an issue I was dealing with, and that's just an overgrowth of yeast. And so basically I had to work with a practitioner. I got my diet dialed in. I was still leaning heavily on the fruit. There still was some breakouts happening that I attribute to candida and then to a garlic sensitivity. But yeah, I had to work with some herbals. Basically, I just did a gut healing protocol, took, like 3 solid months and did some herbs, rotated them, brought in the probiotics and, used not prebiotics right away, but really high quality probiotic, supported my gut just by drinking bone broth all the time or daily. But yeah, herbals, high quality probiotics, bone broth, those all got me there too. But I did eventually have to kind of cut back on the fruit even just to get me through. And I did that by using like stevia. There's this awesome recipe. I don't know if you know Krista Horakio from The Whole Journey.
Yeah, actually, Krista's amazing. Yeah.
She's incredible. So her Candida cleanse has this cashew cake batter recipe that tastes literally like cookie dough. And I've asked her before. She says it's cool that I share it. I've tried to recreate something that tastes as sweet but doesn't have any sugar, and I haven't been able to do it, which is why I just share her recipe. But I leaned heavily on that. You just make it and you can have it in the fridge and you just take a bite when you need to, and then you move on with your day. And through that 3-month period and eliminating a lot of the sugar and the fruit in my diet, I was able to kind of get rid of the candida, and then my taste buds were truly recalibrated. And then I was able to kind of listen to, my body wisdom rather than the candida screaming at me, just wanting a bunch of fruit and fruit juice and all of this stuff. So
it's so funny that you brought up, it was about 90 days. And I seen this across the board, and we suggest when we have people that want to correct their microbiome, I said, usually it takes about 3 months.
Yeah.
We've noticed to really get to that point where you're not having those breakouts or you're not having skin rash or whatever you're suffering from, or those things. It takes that time because people have to realize it. It's, your microbiome adjusts to your diet.
Yeah.
And that first little while can be a little bit challenging for people. You go through some food cravings, and it's kind of important to be kind of gentle with yourself. I love the fact that you weren't like hardcore militant beating yourself up. It was a gradual evolution. As it got better, then it became easier and easier to do. What other things do you think are important for people who are looking to move to a paleo diet, if they're coming from another diet that's not working for them? Maybe they've been on keto, or maybe they've been on vegetarian, or maybe they've been standard American diet. What are the things that you've noticed in your work and with your company with people changing over, things that they should do and common mistakes that people make?
Okay, cool. And the second, I just want to add one thing from the last thing. So I had candida, and often when you do, you have something else too. And you probably talked about this on your show, but I also had a parasite, Blastocystis hominis. And typically, yeah, you have candida, you have probably a parasite, bacterial overgrowth. So it was more complicated than just the candida. Just wanted to add that. But,
well, good point. Just a little side note on that. I had a parasite that I picked up when I was in Indonesia that was like, went up my spine and was eating my eye. I almost lost my eye. So
what?
yeah, I think this is an area that we have a parasite product called ParaCleanse, but
yeah,
people don't understand how these parasites, there's a great book out there for people, they want to listen. It's called Parasite Rex. And it's the most frightening book I've ever read in health ever. It's frightening. I'm going to be just straight up. It's terrifying when you read about these organisms. They are amazing. They shift and they could take over the brains of people. They'll take over the brains of a rat so that the rat runs out in the field and the bird eats it. And then the bird eats it and then it turns into something else. And then the bird poops it out and it becomes something else and it's eaten by another thing in the water. Like they take these, they totally transform and they can really interrupt your thinking, your mind, your health and everything. And so I think everybody should check for parasites because oftentimes when people are struggling, it's often a parasite that's really good. That's really great to hear that you were able to take it out. Tell me more. Keep
and yeah, and just to follow up on that too. And the thing that I realized in working with people and doing some gut protocols is that a lot of times people think it's about the parasite. And yes, we need to eradicate the parasite, but we also need to look a step further and say, like, why is your immune system depressed? And why is it a hospitable environment you have in there too? So yeah, and all dialing in your diet, dialing in your lifestyle, that all plays a part in it. But there's like two things I love to tell people when they come to paleo that I think people miss often. And the first is that obviously we mentioned that before, quality is so important in terms of organic and grass-fed, 100% grass-fed and pastured, and all of those nuances, like starting there, not just doing the whole foods if you can. I know, start anywhere you can, but that is the goal, so that you can avoid the pesticides and all the other things that really put a stress on our health. And speaking of the microbiome, like pesticides, they wreak havoc on the microbiome, our ability to activate and absorb vitamin D. It's just, so quality is the first. The second is, like you said, I see a lot of people saying, okay, well, I'm not eating dairy, I'm not eating soy, I'm not eating gluten. But you need to focus more on what you are eating and put nutrient density kind of like the center of your focus. And the way I like for people to do this, because I honestly did the paleo diet for a number of years without really worrying about it. And I was feeling much better. But it wasn't until have you heard of the app Chronometer?
No, tell me more about that.
Okay.
This is exciting.
It's so cool because, MyFitnessPal, awesome stuff. Carbs, your proteins,
right,
your fat, your macros. But Chronometer also looks at your micronutrients, your vitamin A, your iron, all of your micronutrients, which are so important, which basically run your metabolism, your immune system. They're everything. And unfortunately, a lot of us aren't getting enough. So if you take 3 days, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, for those who want to find out if they have deficiencies, they can check out episode 25, where I interviewed Dr. Paul Maximus, who's an ND that I work with. And you can take what's called a SpectraCell test. And it'll actually show you what key micronutrients and vitamins and minerals and things that you're missing in your diet and the impact of those things. So it's a great test. Your ND can issue it for you. And it's a great way to find out, because oftentimes people have all these nutritional deficiencies that are compromising them and making it hard to stay with any diet because their body's just craving, and they can't get it.
Yeah, that's so important. I just did a SpectraCell, and I am a seller. I make organs. I make an organ complex. I was deficient in vitamin A somehow. And liver is like the most nutrient dense source of vitamin A ever. And so, I think that brings so much clarity to the situation, and it is an investment, but it's actually pretty accessible for most people. So you can start just dialing it in by doing 3 days out of your life in Chronometer, 3 typical days. You don't want to do like a weekend day or like a day where you're not going to be eating what you're normally eating. You just record everything, and it shows you kind of where those gaps are. And then if you're wondering, do my symptoms overlap with what those vitamins, deficiencies would kind of promote?
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: supercharge your protein shake. Everyone knows protein shakes are a great way to sneak in extra protein, build more muscle, even replace meals and burn more fat. The problem is the highest quality protein typically absorbs at around 40%. One way to fix this and dramatically increase how quickly and effective your protein shake digests is to add 2 to 3 capsules of masszymes into your shake. One research study showed that pre-digested protein during a meal increased muscle growth significantly. To take advantage of this, just blend the open capsules into your shake, and within 15 minutes or less, the enzymes will have begun to break down the protein into amino acids. This can make your shakes at least 2 to 3 times more potent. Some people do this and sip on their shake while lifting to provide their muscles with a steady stream of amino acids during their workout. To save 10% on masszymes, use the code SHAKE10, that's SHAKE10, at masszymes.com. That's SHAKE10 at masszymes.com.
And then you can kind of gauge.
So where would people find one of these chronometers?
It's Chronometer.com. It's a free software. You just create an account, type it in, 3 days out of your life.
That's beautiful. We're going to put notes on it here. We'll put it in the show notes because I think that's super valuable, because I'm on this whole campaign that the problem with our modern society was an incomplete definition of what food is. We've called food protein, fats, carbohydrates, and fiber, basically, and a couple macro minerals or whatever, but that's it. And, if you have a 300-pound football lineman and a 98-year-old grandmother, they're going to have different nutrient requirements. Right. The standard RDA just does not make sense. And most people don't get their standard RDA even. And that's just what prevents disease, not what keeps you biologically optimized.
That's exactly right. So when you're looking at that chronometer, even if you're like hitting all the benchmarks, you're still experiencing symptoms, realize, this is an average. This is like, and an average that's based on, not thriving, just being there, just surviving. And so, you still have to take that into account, but it often brings up some gaps in a way that I haven't seen any other software that's that accessible does. And so focusing on the nutrient density, and when it comes to mental health, just because I'm a super nerd about that, they did an analysis of the most nutrient dense foods for people who have anxiety, depression, nervousness. And it comes down to organ meats, of course, goat, high quality like sea vegetables, and also wild fish. And then in the green category, it's like romaine, it's all your leafy greens. So what I do is just try to make sure I have high quality grass-fed organ meats in my diet every week, at least some seafood, and then just leafy greens. Like I said, I do the 1 to 2 servings a day. So the nutrient density piece was huge for me because, like I said, I'd make my fat bombs, make my chocolate fat bombs. But it's like, are you getting your vitamin A? Are you getting your iodine? Are you getting your zinc? Maybe not. So that's the second thing. And the last thing is, I think paleo is awesome. And I think like 80% of us, 1 out of every 2 or 3 is insulin resistant. And so it is possible to still, have unstable blood sugar and still make this situation worse if you're doing the super fruit smoothies and the dried fruits and the fruit, fruit juice. And so just making sure that if you have symptoms of insulin resistance, like you're carrying a little weight around here, you're fatigued, you're thirsty all the time, you urinate more frequently, you have high levels of triglycerides, things like that, then maybe learning to stabilize your blood sugar in addition to the paleo diet, in addition to whole foods diet, is a really big piece of the puzzle for a lot of people I work with too.
Yeah, and for people who want to know the testing, again, I'll refer to episode 25. It's called the HOMO IR, which will measure your insulin resistance and blood sugar levels. It's a great test. You can find out where you're at about that. And, that's the beauty of testing, is you get out of the realm of theories and opinions and you get into specifics about your own self, where you're at and what you need to do.
Exactly. And that's another thing I just want to add, that your diet, your perfect diet might look different than your husband's perfect diet. Like when it comes to me, I have both genes for Alzheimer's. I have diabetes in my family. Carbs, for me in excess, they're like poison. I can tell. I get brain fog. I get moody. I get tired. Whereas my husband, he just thrives on like tubers and fruits, and like he can eat them all day, and his blood work looks good. Mine does when I keep that in check. And so it doesn't have to match everyone else's. I think that's important.
Yeah. And I experience the same thing. My blood sugar, like I always say, I'm a carbivore, but I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody because I have, for whatever reason, genetically and epigenetic wise, I metabolize carbohydrates really easily and very well. And so, and that's one of the things, and it's why I have you here particularly is, my business partner is a keto guy. That works for him. I'm a vegetarian. You're a paleo person, but we're all saying the same things. And that is, you need to eat nutrient dense foods. You need to have organics. You need to get the chemicals. You got to take care of your microbiome. You need specific testings to find out your nutrient deficiencies. And you need an expert to help you guide along the way. And one of the things I think, and I'm on a mission to kind of eliminate this dietary tribalism that has emerged on the internet where, everybody's at a war with each other and they don't realize that a rigid position is always a position of weakness. You don't know where you're going to be in 5 years or 10 years. And so by maintaining what I call diet flexibility and cognitive flexibility is that you're able to make those little adjustments as you go through life. Stress can be a big factor, change in life, environmental toxins or, pollution, all kinds of things can interrupt. Hormonal changes, all these things can make dietary changes, essential to make it a different stage in your life. And if you're locked into one type of thinking, I think it really sets a person up for some sort of disaster.
I think you're absolutely right. And I love that you're here to knock down that tribalism because me too. And when you look at the people who are eating vegetarian, vegan, even, like you are keto, paleo, we have a lot more in common than we don't. It's like we all want to do right by our body. We're all coming from different places and we're all looking for our best option at this point in time. And I love that. Seasonality is something I bring into my practice too, because people are expecting often that they're going to get the diet, they're going to get the perfect diet, and then they're just going to go on autopilot. And it's like, there's no way to do that. Even in the summer, I have more fruits and I'm a little bit better able to do that. In the winter, I kind of hunker down. If I'm super stressed, I'm going to be needing different nutrients. And so I think at the end of the day, we need experts. Yeah. And then we also need to be really in tune with that intuitive body wisdom that we will get when we get rid of, any sort of like sugar addiction we're dealing with or kind of get a handle on our insulin resistance. When that happens, we will find that voice inside of us that is the ultimate yellow brick road to wellness, in my opinion.
Very well said. Very well said. Let's talk a little bit about you and the typical person that comes to see you, and then we'll get to Paleo Valley and what you're doing over there. So person comes to you, what type of person do you typically deal with who's maybe struggling with their health or struggling with their dietary practices? Who is the type of person that comes to you and then what do you do to help them?
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, I often attract people who have anxiety or depression and they want to kind of do as much as they can with food. And not that I think there's anything wrong with prescription meds. I think for some people they can work. I think diet can be an adjunctive therapy, but typically that's my population. And so what we do is we just do that chronometer exercise. That's where I start with everyone. And we try and dial in their diet first. And I had this remarkable story about a man and he had anxiety every day and he had a knot in his stomach. It would just start at 4 p.m. It got so bad that he couldn't eat. And then he'd have, just bowel reactions and he couldn't put on any weight. And so all we did was dial in his nutrient density to begin. And he realized that when he ate sardines at 2 p.m., because sardines are like brain food, he didn't get that knot in his stomach anymore at 4. And so it was just that simple tweak. Now, it's pretty powerful, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And we're going to go on and we're going to do testing. So that worked really well, but he's still really wanting to gain more weight. Okay. And so, but he's feeling less anxious. And so that's great. And sometimes it requires testing. So I did this FDN program, functional diagnostic nutrition. And essentially what we do is we use things like, a spectre cell, or we use hormone testing like the Dutch, or the GI map, which is a stool test where you look into your microbiome and see, are you harboring pesticides, probably pesticides too, but parasites, bacterial overgrowth, candida, how's your immune system functioning? And then we get to the root of their problem, because I love to start with food, but it doesn't always end there. It didn't end there for me and for a lot of my clients. There will be, parasites, candida, things that are contributing to, brain fog, anxiety, other things. So there's often not one thing you need to tweak. It's so many different things.
That's another thing I think is really important to people is we've got this kind of magic bullets thinking society. If I just do this one thing, And the reality is our dietary canal is extremely complex, and there's a lot of different environments, whether it's the enzymatic component, whether it's hydrochloric acid, whether it's the microbiome, whether it's other, viruses or parasites or other funguses or these type of other entities that are living in this environment, and systematically taking them out does take a period of time, because you know what? You didn't get here, if you're on, you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, however old you are, you got there because of your journey up to this point. And you need to start changing the things, but you can't always change everything all at once. And it is a journey.
It is. And one thing I often see that I saw that you have a product and it addresses that is low levels of stomach acid, because when you don't have the stomach acid, you're not only not absorbing the nutrients, but then the amino acids we need, there are building blocks for our neurotransmitters. That's not happening. And so it can be something as simple as your stomach acid levels. You're just needing to address that. But yeah, there's so many layers. And I think people shouldn't be frustrated by that. I am always encouraged, because I thought I was feeling the best I'd ever felt after I found paleo. And then the more I learn and the more I, understand myself, it just seems to get better and better. So every little piece is just like another awesome.
I think that's a great sign. Once you go through that transition period, as you kind of, what I say, refine the nuances for your own individual lifestyle and genetics and epigenetics and stuff, it continues to get better. And that's why I think some people are like, why are these health people so kind of freaky? Like, what's going on? And it's because you feel so good on a day-to-day basis, and it becomes so interesting as you see the interactions of different foods with your bodies, or seasonal eating and things like that. And it just becomes, you get in tuned with this whole fascinating system that we've kind of like stepped away from in the modern world, that we're just not tuned into our bodies the same way that we could be.
Yeah, and it's so empowering as someone who went through the system and just felt like, okay, I need someone to fix me. No one is there. Something's wrong with me. And to now know, okay, like food's not good or bad. Being paleo isn't good, and eating processed food isn't bad. It's just like food has consequences, and all of a sudden I feel like I have some part of control in how I feel, and it's just it changed my whole life, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. So let's switch gears and let's talk about Paleo Valley and why. What is the company all about? Why did you start Paleo Valley, and who do you serve with Paleo Valley? I'd love to know more about it.
Yeah. Okay. So we started it because, like I said, I went on that tour with Jennifer Lopez, and I was like on top of the world, because right before I left, I had found the paleo and my digestion. I didn't have to be embarrassed anymore. But as we traveled, I was just like, what am I going to do? I had my husband, when he met me in Paris, he brought over a suitcase of beef sticks that I thought were really, really high quality beef sticks. And they were grass fed even. So anyway, I continued to eat these, and I still suffered from this stomach upset. And I was just like, what is up with that? So when I got back to America, I kind of did some digging, looked really close at the ingredients, and I was like, what's this citric acid thing? Everything looked clean except for that. And then I found out it's something that they don't have to write on the label. It's called encapsulated citric acid, where they take citric acid, often derived from GMO corn, and then they coat it in hydrogenated oil, and then let it melt into the product, because it stabilizes it. It drops the pH, and then it's preserved. And so when we found that out, we were like, well, we've got to do it better than that. And we just need to that's where we're going to start, because that's what I needed as a fitness trainer. And because Dr. Felice Jacka found that red meat is actually one of the most protective foods against anxiety and depression in her research. Mm-hmm. So of course, having that history, we're like, okay, the beef stick is our flagship product. It's going to be fermented, because, it's going to take 4 times longer. No manufacturers are going to want to do it. But I made 200 calls, and someone finally said yes. And so that's what we did. That's our first product. And then we moved out from there. What products do we need? When we had my son, it was like, what products does he need? And when I was pregnant, nutrient density really got at the forefront of my mind. And I knew, okay, I need the B vitamins, and I need all these minerals. And so organ meats were the answer when I did my research and went through school. But I couldn't palate them. My husband would try and sneak them into dishes. It wasn't happening, let's just say it. And so we put them in capsules, just grass-fed and finished organ meats, which are the most nutrient-dense source of vitamin A and B12 on the planet. And interestingly enough, the 1934 Nobel Peace Prize winner in physiology was 3 physicians actually who cured anemia using beef liver. So we just know for fatigue and for, supporting your body through pregnancy and any sort of like endurance athlete, organs were really, really key for me. And so we made that. And then we just kind of went out from there, like our vitamin C. I don't know if you've ever talked about this, or a vitamin C for your brain. Your brain holds on to more vitamin C than any other organ in your body. And for me, it was really, really helpful. It was another one of those pieces. I got my diet dialed in. Then I said, okay, well, what if I took more than the RDA recommends for me for vitamin C? And it's been really powerful, especially when I switched to a whole food version, because 90% of vitamin C on the market is made from GMO corn. And that's okay. I think ascorbic acid has its time and place. When you have a serious disease, intravenous vitamin C couldn't be more grateful. But on a day-to-day basis, I noticed for me personally that I was feeling better when I had a vitamin C that just came from berries and almond berry and acerola cherry. So we created that product. Then the skin connection came in, the hydrochloric acid. I learned, okay, this could be contributing to my skin issues that did linger beyond my digestive issues. Got really into stomach acid, wanted a natural way to do it because I breastfed for a really long time. And so I just wanted to do things as naturally as possible. I first created an Ignite tea that just had apple cider vinegar, turmeric, ginger, cayenne, just all of these really, really healing herbs that were going to improve my digestive fire. And then people didn't want to make it when I'd work with them. They're like, yeah, who has time to, measure the spices? And so we put that into a capsule, made my Ignite tea into something that people could take. And also had a dentist friend of mine reach out and tell me it's not great to tell people to drink apple cider vinegar because it could ruin their tooth enamel. So that was our solution, our apple cider vinegar complex. We have a turmeric complex. We have turkey sticks, and we're coming out with our superfood bars are going to be back soon. People love our superfood bars, and we just had a problem with the quality control because we refuse to compromise. We're not going to take, a cheaper ingredient or something that's not organic just to ship the product. Yep. And so what we had to do was open our own bar manufacturing facility, which we just finished. And so they'll be back in the new year, but that was a really long process. And then most recently we started Wild Pastures. I don't know if you want to hear about that or
to let us know. Let's give us the whole 9 yards, because there's going to be some paleo listeners that are going to be super pumped and excited to hear about these products.
Okay, awesome. So Wild Pastures, when we had Maverick and nutrient density really became an obsession of mine, we realized the FAO has told us we have 60 years of topsoil left. And so that really concerned me because we're going to leave the next generation with a nutrient depleted food supply if we don't intervene like yesterday. And so we were learning from farmers that we had the relationship with because of our grass-fed beef sticks that even in grass-fed, there's nuances, okay? So you can have a grass-fed cow that's using continuous grazing, which just means they're not moving them around from plot to plot to land. When this happens, the grass gets degraded and it still damages the environment, okay? Mm-hmm. Whereas on the other hand, there's regenerative agriculture, where they move the cows from plot of land, then they give the plots of land time to recover. And research has shown that when you do this kind of agriculture, you can sequester carbon, which is great for the environment, obviously, and also builds the topsoil, which means the nutrient density of our topsoil comes back. You get that rich chocolate cake kind of soil that we're missing. And so we knew, okay, the problem is people don't know where to find these regenerative agriculture, the people doing this. And when they do find it, it's often very expensive. And so we decided we wanted to make this our bigger mission. And so what we do is we partnered with those family farmers, and we partner with them only in America because we know some meat delivery services do import. Most of them do. And I get that because the standards there sometimes have been higher, historically. We partner with American farmers, and then we deliver it to people's doors for wholesale prices. We just make sure farmers taken care of. We make sure that consumers have a price they can afford. And we launched in Denver, and 2 days shipping out from there. And now we're opening in January a facility in Scottsdale, actually Phoenix. So then we'll have all the West Coast to the lower West Coast. So you might be in there.
Where do you and where do people find out about this? Where can they go to find out if they want this service?
Yeah, wildpastures.com.
And
So
we'll put that in the show notes, everybody, because, getting high quality food sources is really, really important to be successful in any dietary practice. And what a great service that you're doing.
I know we're excited about it because you get the highest quality to nourish your family, but then also these regenerative farmers can count on the demand and they're working on our soil. And so it's just like, it's in every way, it's a win. So, and you can opt out of factory farming and give, the animals a really great life. So I don't know.
Well, I always suggest to people, and it's like really the real vote in your life is not to a political party. The vote is with your dollars. And when you support industries that regenerate the soil, that make high quality products, or that produce high quality products like your company, then what you're doing is you're supporting and sustaining not just yourself, but that company, which also sustains and supports other people. And then that allows things to go. And I think a lot of people are looking outside of themselves to somebody is going to fix this. Someone's going to make a law, or someone's going to make a rule, or they complain about this and they don't realize that, it's really that simple. It's you vote with your dollars. You spend a little bit of time, do your research, find the companies that actually are producing what you want, and you buy the products from them. And nowadays with the internet, you have far more choices than just wandering down to the local, factory farmed grocery store.
Yeah.
You choose. One last thing I want you to talk about also is farmers markets. And I'm a big proponent of farmers markets. What's your whole story around farmers markets? Why do you go? What's the advantages of them? And tell me more about it.
Oh, I love it because I just love connecting people with their local producers, and also you're just reconnecting with culture. And so my favorite thing to do at farmers market is just to go and to look your producers in the eye and get to know them. Like, okay, are you doing things? Because a lot of times producers, if they're smaller, they might be doing things in an organic way, but they might not be able to afford the certification.
Correct.
Which means maybe you can get a deal on some really awesome, actually organic produce just by asking a few questions. Like, are you, using pesticides? Like, are you using till? Like, no till is a whole other thing. Are you using regenerative agriculture? And so when I lived in LA, I would go to the farmer's market and meet the farmers. And this one guy told me this really great thing, because a lot of people are like, yeah, but how do you know if they're telling the truth? And what he said to me is, he said, go on Google Earth, ask them where their farm is, zoom on in, ask them about their practices, and just check out if it aligns with what they're saying. And also just kind of like looking someone in the eye and getting to know them is huge. But what I think even more important than that is, like, most of our food supply is in these hands of this mega producers. And not only are we missing out on our local producers, but we're increasing our carbon footprint because it's traveling so far. And I think we really need to get back to just like eating from our bioregion, eating locally, and supporting those mom and pops who are doing the regenerative agriculture and they're making the transition. And so I think farmers markets just allows us to do that in a way that's really, really cost effective and just feels good. There's that community. It's like, hey, I know the person growing my food. That's something I've seen, the effort they put into it, the heart that they have, their family. I mean, there's something really special about that too.
That's beautiful. We're coming up on the hour. So what are any final things that you'd like to add to our listeners, or things that you would like to share, or also, and then how do they reach you and how do they find out more about what you're doing and all the cool things that you're involved in?
Yeah, I think we did a good job. You asked great questions. I'm just happy to be here. And I say, if something I said made you happy or angered you or annoyed you, I'd like to hear from all of you anyway, because I'm always open to feedback. If there's a product that you're looking for that we don't offer right now, just reach out to me. You can always reach me at autumn@paleovalley.com. We also have all the social media channels for Wild Pastures and Paleo Valley on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, if you want a direct line, just autumn@paleovalley.com. And I'll answer all your questions. We want to be really, really transparent. So even the hard questions, ask me the hard questions. Love the hard questions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Autumn. This is really great. I know there's going to be some converts to give Paleo a try, and I highly encourage them to go out there and give it a shot and try some of the products for your company. If you're on Paleo, you're doing that, you need to check out Paleo Valley and what you guys are doing over there. I think it's really great. I love the fact that you're so hardcore on product quality and stuff. I'm in the same boat, and I love that mindset. So thanks so much for joining us today on the Awesome Health Podcast Show. For folks that have been listening, you can go through the show notes. You'll have all the links in here for Autumn. Reach out to her, find out about her products, give them a shot. I think you're going to be very, very impressed. And of course, make every day an awesome day.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: how to get away with eating sugar. Hey, look, sugar is normally one of the worst things for you. But let's be honest. I mean, we all cheat from time to time. And here's a little trick that will ensure your body benefits from the sugar. Now, before you eat or drink anything sweet, take 5 to 8 capsules of P3OM. The patented strain in the formula devours sugar so fast it literally doubles in the body every 20 minutes in the presence of sugar. That doesn't mean that you can or you should eat a bunch of sugar or sit around all day doing that. But on the days that you do cheat, or you go after one of those maybe meals that you wouldn't normally do, this ensures that you get something in your gut that eats the sugar. And it's not going to feed the bad guys or spike your blood glucose nearly as much. So to learn more about P3OM and its sugar-devouring and protein-digesting properties and how it can transform your gut and metabolism, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.